So I'm gonna make one of my favorite guilt-free dishes, a quinoa bowl. I know it doesn't sound that sexy, but let me show you how simple it is to eat. It's delicious and I absolutely love it. So the first thing we're gonna do is actually get the quinoa started. So what I'm gonna do is take this over to the sink and we're gonna rinse this. So the key to cooking quinoa is really simple. It's 1 part quinoa to 2 parts water. Today I'm just gonna make half a cup just to show you how much it makes. So we have our measuring cup here over a strainer. I'm just gonna measure this here, about half a cup. Put it here, and then next we're gonna rinse this in just some cold water, and you wanna rinse it until it's completely clear. And then now, I'm just gonna take a small pot. So we have a small pot, we'll put our quinoa in there, and then now we have to measure out the water. Remember, it's 1 part quinoa to 2 parts water. Okay, so now we're back on top of the stove. You don't need the lid, although this beautiful pan here, pot, does have one. And all I'm gonna do here, this is 1 even layer. What I mean is the quinoa isn't lumped up there. It's 1 even layer. You have the water. Now I'm gonna crank this up to high. So what I wanna do is turn this up to high and bring this to a boil. The minute it boils, I turn this down to a simmer. And what I'm gonna do is add just a little pinch of salt and pepper here. Since this takes fairly a quick amount of time to cook, I want that salt to kind of absorb into the quinoa until the quinoa blooms. So once this boils, we'll turn it down to a light simmer and we'll let that cook for about 15 minutes until all the water is dissolved. So now that the quinoa is working, it only takes about 15 minutes to finish off here. We're gonna get going with the steak. We have some artichokes. We also have some gorgonzola cheese. And here's the rule of thumb when you're cooking really good meat. Number 1, buy the best. This is grass-fed ribeye. I love it for the extra fat in it. I like the flavor. Number 2 rule for cooking a really great steak is making sure you cook it properly. It's all about technique. It's not about a bunch of fancy ingredients. So I have a cold pan here. I'm just gonna take some grapeseed oil and just enough to coat the bottom a little bit there. There's enough fat actually in the steak where it's gonna render out and it's gonna create all the flavor. So I turn this up to high, and as that's coming to its smoking point, I'm gonna actually take my artichokes here and I'm gonna strain them and chop them up. Artichokes are something that's really good for you because they're high in fiber. So I'm gonna take some of these out here and just give it a nice rough chop. Doesn't have to be perfect, but everything here should be about the same size. So we have a rough chop of our artichokes. And then for later, a little garnish, I'm just gonna grab some parsley, flat leaf parsley flavor. In flat leaf parsley is a lot better than actually just curly parsley. So I like to get some Italian flat leaf parsley. Here's the proper way to chop herbs, dice it up. You're gonna put it into a nice tight ball like this and then slice with your knife. So you wanna run your knife through it. So slice, just a real subtle motion, slicing like this. Don't push, you'll crush it and then your board will actually turn green. So just a real rough chop of the flat leaf parsley here. And next, take a look at my pan. It is now beginning to smoke, right? So I just move my oil around. Now I'm ready to start cooking. Grapeseed oil has a really high smoking point, so it's perfect for searing meat and getting a lot of flavor and caramelization out of it. So our meat is really dry, grass-fed ribeye. I'm gonna take just a little pinch of salt and pepper. You always wanna season it right before you cook it, because if you season it too early, the salt is gonna pull out all the moisture and your meat is gonna end up bloody, okay? So now, I just lay this down, 1 nice even layer. And sometimes the hardest part is not messing with it. I'm gonna let that sear off, just kind of move some of that oil around. So now that the meat is searing properly, I'm not gonna mess with it. If you stir the pan too much, you bring the temperature of that pan down and then your meat won't caramelize. It'll actually steam instead. You won't get the color, you won't get the flavor, and you won't get the really nice caramelization on the outside. So while that's cooking, let's check on our quinoa. So come on in here and take a look. Almost all the water's dissolved out. There might be a little bit there. And you wanna just cook this on a low simmer until the germ has spiraled out, meaning before it was just little pieces, now you'll notice they've opened up a little bit. So this here is finished, and what I'm gonna do is just turn my heat off, and we're gonna bring this down to medium heat on our steak. Now that it's beginning to caramelize, let me show you. See how it's beginning to caramelize all the way around. I like my steak here closer to like medium rare. You can see through the smoke. So this here is just about finished. I'm gonna add in there my artichokes. I'm gonna take just a little splash, just a splash of Marsala wine. And then That there will reduce down. I need to season this still with just a little bit of salt and pepper. And then right as all that alcohol is just about gone, I'm gonna take just a dollop of butter in there. And then now, my fresh flat leaf Italian parsley for some color. And all that Marsala wine is just about gone, so you just want to stir this around. Make sure all that butter is melted in there. My steak is about medium now, medium rare maybe, getting a little bit closer to medium. And then I take my finished quinoa. We have our quinoa that's done here. You could put this in the bowl first, put this right in the bottom. Remember, this was quinoa, salt and pepper. That's it. That's going to be the bed, the base for our dish. And then now we have our artichokes and our ribeye. You can place that right on top. This is a guilt-free dish. Super easy. Again, maybe 6 ingredients in this. I'm ready to eat lunch. I finish this off with that gorgonzola cheese. You can mix this together. What I like to do is this. I like to take this bowl, and instead of making it real pretty, I actually like to mix this up. The cheese softens a little bit, and when you eat it, it's almost creamy, and it's really nice. The quinoa is opened up, and this dish is ready to go. I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready to eat. So we'll see you next time.